G'day punters, welcome to another episode of the Footy Form Guide podcast. I'm of course your regular host Walley, but this week things are a little different. I'm going to jump into Harros' hot seat. He's surfing and sunning himself over in Bali. So we've got my man, the host of Players, the host of In the Back Pocket, Felix Von Hofe. He's going to step into the hosting chair. Felix, how are you, mate?
It is an absolute pleasure to be here. And I'll tell you what, shout out to Harro, because I've been needing someone to transport those 25 CD cases for the last month. And finally, we're going to be able to get them back, even if he's got to maybe stay a little longer.
Mate, you might be the permanent host of the show.
It's going to be fantastic, mate. We've got spring racing coming up. We've got a big schedule coming up. We need those CDs. So thank you, Harro.
Mate, thank you so much for filling in, Felix. Mate, you are going to take the reins and I'm going to do my best to carry the load that Harro usually does. In fairness, I have been in contact with him, so don't worry. This is all authorised and been signed off by Harro. The information you're going to be receiving today.
Nice, yeah, that'll certainly stand up in court. I'm sure the judge will really like that. Well, let's kick right into it, because what's hot, what's not from you guys last week. Okay. Now, I've heard things about the Footy Form Guide podcast before, so I'm assuming this is all going to be in the what's hot sort of category.
Yeah, look, it should be. Look, this last week we had another good round. The key ones if I go through some of the games, some of the key call-outs, and I haven't put them all in. It was a good week. Luke Jackson disposals and the Freo line kicked us off on that Thursday night game. We hit that. Obviously, Freo, our best bet for the round, and that got up. Then the North line and North win we spoke about, McKercher and Sheasel disposals. So we had a really good game in that game. The North win at that $4.20 price was a good one. Rosie went under, he's 27.5 just. Grundy went over the 20 that we called. Then GWS Adelaide was a really good one. We had the total overs there. It cleared that easily. It went over 200 in the end. And we also had GWS mids, and Green had 31. Ash had 33. Callahan had 28. And Anderson we spoke about as well. He had 42. And then closing out the round, obviously we liked the Dogs there at the line, but more importantly, the Bont disposals and the Darcy goals were two we spoke about. Bont had 36, Darcy had 5. Now, where there's good, there's bad. We did miss a few as well, but I'm happy to say we didn't miss a huge amount. On that Thursday night game, we liked Jackson, as I said. We also like Bolton disposals. He finished with only 15. We thought for sure he'd be getting his 20. The other one, we thought Dylan Stevens, he'd be getting his 15 or his 20. He only had 13, so he was a miss for North as well. And then lastly, Bailey Dale, which we're really confident on to have a big game. He finished with only 23. So he's even missed that low 25 line. So it was a bit disappointing there. But overall, a really good round and, mate, very excited about this week.
That's a win. I'll tell you what, there was a couple of close ones as well. There was from the multis that go around my group chats. Adam Chera got his, I believe it was his 25th or 30th with the final kick of the game. Like 2 seconds to go, bang, locks it in. We have both a mutual friend, Nath John, who was unfortunately in hospital this week with just some minor stuff, pneumonia, I think it was. So I thought, I want to cheer him up. I'm going to send him a same game multi. So I sent him one for the Freo game, and the final leg of it was paying about $13. The final leg was Patrick Voss needed 2 goals. Kicked one, he gets the final kick. Poor Nath John in hospital, sitting there despondent, and Patrick Voss sprays it across the goals. And he was, it wasn't a nice way to end.
How was his celebration for his first goal, though? Mate, up and about, this guy, he's bringing a level of energy. It's Tom Papley energy levels.
Yeah.
It's that sort of energy which you need in a forward
Which you
line.
don't get that from a key forward much. No, usually it's a little goal sneaks, those sort of guys.
And you don't get it at Freo, let's be honest. They're a pretty like subdued team, aren't they? Also, when's the last time you've seen them up and about and just like, seething? Like,
well, their supporters after Tommy Sheridan turned it over in the elimination final. I think that was they were pretty up and about there. I do love Tommy Sheridan. We love what he does.
And we love Rick's,
American accent. Rick's Honeys. Have you got any free lays?
I do.
Shout out to Tommy Sheridan.
Yeah,
he gave me about 6 pairs to give to various. I think it was Gronk, Volkanovski.
How many you got? How many of those you still got?
I couldn't give it to him. They all had sunglass sponsors, and he's been asking for the Sunnies back.
No,
I said no. Once they're in my house,
we've got them, mate.
They're gone. But let's crack right into the footy because it's a massive round coming up. The last of the bye rounds. Good riddance to them. May they never return. Have it all in one round, as Richo said.
Agreed.
Last year, one of the greatest points that's been made. But it's Carlton and Port Adelaide. Carlton the outsiders in this one, $2.19. Port Adelaide the favourite at $1.68. It is at Adelaide Oval. The line's 5.5. Now, this one is a golden goose for the media because whoever drops this game is going to be scalded, and whoever wins, they're going to be saying, maybe they're back because they're both sitting at that magical 6 and 8.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great shout. And sort of that, it's almost the battle of the outgoing coaches. One we know that's leaving, and the other one that the fans clearly think should be. Look, as a rough guide to where they're at, I had a look at this. GWS is a team they've both played within the last month. Now, this is real basic areas, but if I look at that, Port won away from home, Blues lost by them by 28 points to them at home. So you go, look, you don't need that form line just to watch how they're both going about it. Look at the injury lists as well. The players missing from Carlton that should be missing again. I know Curnow played last week, but he wasn't really impactful at all. Mackay's out, Walsh is out. They're missing a lot. Porter in a much better nick in terms of a team coming into this game. So I lean with Port Adelaide straight away. They've looked better the last few weeks. They got dominated by Sydney. 19-point loss was actually flattering for them. But that's a different Sydney team than we've seen all year.
100%. I've been trying to say this as well. Like, as much as we joke around about making the top 8, all this sort of stuff, they're still at good value.
Yep.
Dare I say it, the premiership at $151. I've seen worse bets in my life. I've made worse bets in my life.
There you go. He's come in absolutely hot here, Felix. Swans flag 150 to 1. You heard it here first. Look, to be honest, Carlton couldn't have been less impressive losing to North. They tried a bit late, but it didn't matter. So
did they try, or did North try to lose?
Well,
because it really felt like they just were stumbling towards the line and North fell over.
Yeah, they still haven't learned how to win games.
No, and that'll come.
That will come. Yeah. But like for this, so I look at this and I go, the line is a short line. The line's like a goal. So I'll be looking at Port for the line. More than happy to take that bet. The other areas I wanted to have a look at, we always look at disposals. We look at goals. Disposals are an interesting one here. Both teams are actually pretty stingy. Carlton the 14th and Port Adelaide a 10th for disposals allowed. So they are in that bottom half of allowing disposals, or top half, whichever way you look at it. Baggers do, however, allow outside midfielders, though. That's the one area that they over-index in. So Jace Burgoyne, for me, is that guy, and he's been playing well. So I'd be looking at Jace Burgoyne's line closer to the bounce, and also for the whether you're looking at the 15, 20, 25, have a look at that for your same game multis. But Jace Burgoyne, definitely one for me that we'll be looking at there. The other area is that Port actually give away a lot of disposal to rucks. I'll just give you these. These are the established quality ruckmen. This is what they've done this year. Grundy, 22 and 26. Gawn, 23. Jackson, 21. English, 27. Sherry, 23. Now, even the others like Madden from GWS, Riley O'Brien, Blixavs, they've all had 15, right? All of those players have still had 15. So TDK should be covering a decent disposal line here. The only caveat is if Mark Pitno plays again, if he plays this week, the drop-off is it's about half a dozen on average. So he drops between 5 and 6 disposals when he comes into the side, TDK does. So I just wait for that. I don't know. Obviously last week, I don't know what changes they're going to make this week. I don't know who's coming back in. So if Pitnet plays, leave the bet alone. If he does not play, TDK disposal line, TDK for the 20 and maybe even 25 is 100% a bet.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, even the unders on TDK potentially, if you got that Pitnet knowledge, depending on where that line is.
It just depends on that, and that's one of the ones I just maybe go, oh, do we leave this? But we'll wait and see on that one. But yeah, that's how I play. The two major areas though, Jaceberg on disposals, and we playing Port at the line.
The interesting one for me on this one, and I think Hurdy during the week said he took Curnow for 6+ this week, purely just because Port Adelaide, if you're going to give up 7 inside 50 marks to Joel Amati, then surely this is a bounce back week for Curnow, because he's been just a real tough one for punters throughout the entire season. I just haven't been able to catch it.
It's just the whole thing for me. They play this guy like when he's not fit so much. It's how fit is he? I could see a world in which Curnow has a night out and they still comfortably lose. That's why I'm happy to go with the line, but I just don't know where he's at. It's a great shout. They do give up a lot. They give up a lot to key forwards continuously throughout the year. So it's a good shout for me. He's just a watch for another week. But yeah, that's how we play in that one, mate.
Do they still allow the next coach markets, or have those been kiboshed by the regulators?
I believe they do. The role has to be cleared, and they do, and there's a limit that you can have on them from my understanding. So you can have a limit to win a certain amount that I would be decided on.
World's gone soft, Wally. We've gone soft.
But the one thing I do know is that the vacancy needs to be there. So you can't go like, In the States,
Yeah.
you would be able to go, Voss will be sacked this way. This will be the newsbreaker. This will be like, this is where it'll be first listed on.
In the States, they'd be
social.
like, if you guess the first letter of the name, you get $250 free bonus bets.
It's insane.
If LeBron scores 1 point,
Wild
get
West
$1,000. Yeah.
It is the Wild West over there. Where we're heading next?
We are off to the SCG, the
Oh.
Swans taking on the Bulldogs. This is a fantastic one because this is the real test right now for the Swans. It's a real test for the Dogs as well. They need to start getting some
Great
wins
game.
together as well for a team that we were saying top 4, a few weeks into the year. But right now, Sydney at $2.36, love it, and the Dogs at $1.59. The line for this one, 8.5. Where do we sit, Wally?
Well, I'll tell you what, your Swannies are, I would suggest back because they have their players back, and that's only been the difference. I don't think the whole thing with Sydney is they just have had so many players out all year and key players. It has been a huge disadvantage to them. So they look a lot better now. That makes this game far more interesting than we thought it would have been a couple of weeks ago. Here's the tough one for me, and this is why I'm not going to be playing in the line or head-to-head markets here, because I think the Swans are a team you want to be with. The Swans are definitely a team you want to be backing, but so are the Dogs. Even at home, I don't want to oppose the Dogs, but I don't want to be backing the Dogs. They're coming off the 5-day break. I don't know how hard the Bruce Free footy they played against Richmond was. Sydney are at home. They had a really, really strong win. As I said, they should have won that game by 10 goals against Port. The
single worst game ever, champion data rankings from Joel Amati.
Wow.
The single worst game ever in the history of champion data.
And he got that much of the ball.
He got that much of the ball. And 3 of them didn't even make the distance. So he just had one of the all-time.
He should have kicked 10.
Oh, he should have. And you know what? He kicked 9 the last time he was at Adelaide.
And it was against Adelaide, wasn't it?
It was
Yeah.
against Adelaide.
There you go. So he obviously loves playing there. Get on him next time. There's no doubt about that. But he just couldn't get the end result there. Regardless, I'm happy to leave that. The areas I want to look at. All right. So I looked at the tagging role of James Jordan. It makes perfect sense that he goes to Bailey Dale. All right, we saw what happened. He went to Rosie, then Rosie went into the midfield to try and he followed him into the midfield to change up his role and restricted him quite well. Rosie still, he had his 25, but he still wasn't at the level he'd been, but he still got a decent amount of it, had to go into the midfield. I think that it's logical that James Jordan will go to Bailey Dale, so I'm happy to play his unders. Here's the other thing. The last 3 times he's played them, he's had a couple of 22s and a 25, which they're well under Bailey Dale's numbers and will be well under his line number, which would be in the high 20s, mid to high 20s. So I'd be playing his unders when that comes out closer to the bounce. The second part of this is that what happened last week is that with Jordan following Rosie into the midfield, Chad Warner actually lost centre bounce attendances. And so he didn't get as much midfield time because Jordan was going in, replacing him and tagging Rosie. So I think that Warner's one that could get a bump again this week. So I'd be happy to play him at his 20 or whatever.
Warner's been the most consistent. Even when we were down, even in the grand finals
Yeah.
when everyone was playing terrible, he was still getting his numbers. Warner's incredibly consistent.
So I think he'll get more time back into the midfield this week. So I like his numbers. The other thing that interests me here are Blakey and Mills. Now, the reason for this, the Dogs give up the second most to defensive ball users. All right, Blakey's the definition of a defensive ball user. Mills as well. Matty Roberts had that role. Mills seems to. He's still all right, Matty Roberts.
Well, Mills is still coming back into it. Like I think Mills is going to see a real pop soon.
Exactly.
You know, when it takes a few weeks after injury back.
And you feel like he's going to get that ball that Roberts was getting. So I think that they're the two to play. They're great. Lizard averages a tick over 20 in the last 3 seasons, had 22 and 34 the last 2 weeks. Like Mills was again clearing that 20 easily. So those two at the 20 plus for your same game multis, I think make a lot of sense. So I'll be definitely playing those. On the other side, so how we can take advantage of what Sydney give up and get a Dogs player in there. Well, they actually give up a lot of disposal to outside mids. And the SCG, given it's short and wide.
There's a lot of fucking disposals going out here. They're giving up here, they're giving up here.
Great for wingers. Fraser's the one that fits that role for the Dogs at the moment. I think that we can include Fraser for the disposals. So I'm happy playing Blakey, Mills, Fraser in the disposal areas there. Dale's your unders. And then, as I said, if you've still got faith that Roberts is going to get plenty of it down that back, the setup is there for him. It's just how much of his ball Mills takes. The other thing that's worth taking note of is that Treloar coming back out due to injury, and I feel for him. It's been a tough year for him. Just one of these
Tough
guys.
career.
Exactly. It has been, mate. Just one of these likeable guys that's been like chewed up and spat out by one club, and he's really made his home in another, and then his best mate ships off. Do you know what I mean? Like, so there's been, for me, I look at him and you go, you just want to see him get a clear run at it. Him coming out, though, what that does, the midfield's more predictable now. We know it's Bont. We know it's Richards. We know it's Libba. Libba's probably the one that we will see more consistently in the midfield. So I look at those guys there and possible disposals around that, especially if that we're right and Jordan does go to Bailey Dale. Yeah. And then it's midfield versus midfield.
It's such a tough one of who Jordan goes to, because then you go to Bailey Dale, you got Ed Richards off the leash. You've got to do something to nullify Bont. It's just
I think
there's a reason they're a good football team.
I think Libba and Bont would be okay. I mean, I just don't. Jordan's not. I don't think he can go with Bont. I think that Dale is the logical one. We've seen that's how they've been playing it recently. But the big thing for me is no matter what happens with any tags, the like of back again, Blakey, Mills, Fraser, they're the ones that we know are going to get a lot of ball.
What about Sam Darcy? Now, the enigma that is Sam Darcy, right now he's sitting at $1.70 for 3+, which I think I took that last week, cashed it easy. Yeah. Admittedly, it was a very different proposition against the Tigers.
Yeah.
But this week, now Tom McCartan hasn't been towed up by any key forward yet this year, but I keep getting sucked into the 6+ with Darcy because you look at how good he is. Now, the issue I'm starting to think with that, because I keep looking at the amount of targets he gets, the amount of ball that he gets. But is he one of those guys that we're going to be able to take advantage of that market, or do we need to sort of sit around the 3+? Because he's not, he may go down across his career as potentially better than Buddy Frank. You never know, but if you're going to kick 10 goals, or you're going to kick 7 to 8, you need to be doing it more than just lead mark. The game's different. You need to be scooping it off the ground. You need to be snapping it. You need to be a couple of bounces, kick it from 50. He just doesn't have that. But I would still rather have him on my team than a Jesse Hogan, who's probably more likely to kick a 10-goal bag than Darcy would be.
I think that first thing, maybe doesn't need to spend so much time in the ruck.
That's ridiculous. I don't find myself agreeing with Kane Corns much, but I thought that was a fantastic takedown of why you would risk generational talent.
And when they're up by like 18 goals, I was like, anyway, he was 100% right. Look, I look at this. 6 is an interesting number, and there's always this 6 will become an 8 and then become a 10. Buddy's was 10.
Yeah.
Buddy always like 8, 9, 8, 9, 8, 9, 7, 8, 9, and then he kicked 13 when he first went over it. Darcy's young. 6 looks to be his number. He's had 7 once. Everything else is 5 or less. He's kicked 5 twice this year, and there's a 4, there's a 3, there's a 2. Your 3, I would always rather a $1.70 sure thing than a $5 flip, or not even flip of the coin, a lucky dip if you like. So the way I look at it is you go, the 6 is where it's getting up to. Now, last week, Harrow and I backed him for goals. So we backed him for the 5 and the 6. The 5 hit, and then the 6 was predictable that it was going to miss. But I think with the prices you're getting on those, I think you could definitely play. Sydney, however, Sydney's a different proposition to Richmond. I think the 3 is a far safer place to play in. I still look at their back line and go, we're not talking, they don't have, look, they've got a good back 6. I'm not saying that, but they don't have a Taylor. They don't have a Wiedering. They don't have a shout out to recently retired McGovern, who's been one of the best that we've seen do it for years now. They don't have that player. So I go, sort of that 3 goals feels like the exact sort of sweet spot for him.
Especially at $1.70. Like, you look at some of the odds you get for other guys. Yeah. I would have expected when I opened the app to see, I wouldn't be shocked if I saw, sometimes you just get dudded with these ones, with the goal kickers, because the margins aren't that great.
Exactly.
You get $1.40, and I'd be like, you know what? You've come to just accept that what it is. But I'll take $1.70 every game of the week.
Or you could put him down for 2 in your multi with the other disposals. But yeah, absolutely.
Yep. We head to Saturday as well. People First Stadium, the worst name in the league. Gold Coast, $1.39 against Melbourne. Outsiders who are absolutely on the skid at $3 there. The line, 8.5 here. The way that the Dees are playing, Wally, I'd be all over Gold Coast at home on that price.
You'd think so, and they definitely need to win. Is People First, is that like a...
I think it's an insurance company. Always the worst ones are insurance companies.
Well, also, the people that put people last are insurance companies. So it would make sense that they're going with People First. Like
we've got your back. Oh, bullshit.
Is this meant to say budget first, shareholders first, dollars first? It's one of them. Anyway. All right, so no need for more drive-bys, but they probably deserve it.
What about a newspaper? Oh, no. Sorry.
Gold Coast are $1.39. Yeah. I mean, look, I look at this and go, surely we are going to see them get things back on track. That game against GWS was an absolute cracker. I think that the win was more impressive for them than more disappointing for the Suns.
Yeah.
That's just my take. I think that GWS turned up. You've seen this week in the news some of the things that Kingsley was talking to them about and that in-game speech and things like that. I was like, oof, they lifted off the back of that. And I think that they did really well. Gold Coast still had so many good signs, and you would think they are going to play finals. It's just in what position. Anyway, looking ahead to this one, Gold Coast for me, I don't like the odds. I don't like the line. Melbourne are unpredictable now and have shown flashes of being really, really quite good. So I was like, how do I look at this from another angle? So the angle I've went to is the line total. The total over under, it was 172.5. Best you could probably get last time I looked. I like that to go over. Should be high scoring. Gold Coast day games, unlike their night games, which can be quite dewy and slippery, the day games often go high.
You're sick for it.
Yeah.
You're sick for it. We're talking about dew on the grass, Walley.
Which is appropriate up there, Stu and
is.
Dew's old home. But the thing is that the Suns, they can score heavily. The Dees can be a little inaccurate. We know that. We saw that at Alice Springs, and that was the reason that didn't go over because Saints did their job. The Dees the kicking was atrocious. But again, they do have avenues to score through that midfield, and we'll see. But I'm happy to take the overline. How I play this for your props or for your same gamers in terms of players, Gold Coast give up a heap to inside mids, and they don't tag. So for me, that sets up for one man, and that's Petrarca. I'll have him at his line. I'll play him the 25 in the multis. I'll play him the 30 for a little bit extra. His line should be around that mid-20 mark. So it's not ridiculous, and I think he'll get plenty of it. The D's are likely to send Rivers to Anderson. I don't know if it's going to help. I mean, this guy, when are we going to start talking about this guy for the Brownlow?
We're still sitting at, what's he sitting around, 20?
I think he's into about 15. He's in the teens.
Now, yeah.
And I know we're talking about other players, but they've had a lot of losses where he has dominated and they've lost by a kick or two.
Sneak in a one,
he'll get votes
potentially a
against
two.
GWS.
Yeah.
And like, so the thing is that I think that, and they've won so many other games. They've got that extra game in hand that they play later in the year against an Essendon. So, I mean,
is he noticeable enough? Is this going to be considered an apprenticeship year?
No, I know what you're saying. I think he is. What does hurt him is that Took Miller's bulletproof and just turns up every single week and kicks goals this year too.
Yeah.
And Matt Rowell, there's still this Matt Rowell like obsession we have as fans. So there are those little things.
I tell you what, he's one of those guys that would be deserving of it. It's just I just cannot trust with just sort of plain operators with these. Like for example, the Geelong game recently was an example where Cameron kicked 6. Holmes played the best with like 36 disposal. Bailey Smith just hacked it forward and had 41. I can almost guarantee you Smith gets the 3 votes out of that game.
And that's the whole
thing. Headband, blonde hair, he's just known.
Yeah.
I just feel it's why I'm so hesitant because I want to jump in on it. I think Nathan Brown has him almost second on the Brownlow tracker at the moment.
I took him at the start of the season at a massive price on the exchange at $67, which I'm happy to say.
Dye your hair blue.
And then...
Like, just fuck it. At this point, if you're in the running, dye it blue.
I don't mind
Just do it. Mohawk something.
What I will say is, though, he's not just more damaging. He gets so much of it. It's hard to ignore. But we'll see there. But I think that Rivers is going to go to him. I don't know what's going to happen there. So if you're looking for disposals to add to your SGM, I think Miller's probably the one. As I said, he's reliable. He doesn't get a lot of attention, but also Miller can get his disposals a number of different ways. Inside, outside, contested, uncontested. He's a really versatile player.
Yeah.
So if Rivers then goes to Anderson, Miller's the one. I'm with Rao. I know this year he seems to be more versatile, but I always do worry about him just being that player that makes it just looks a little bit difficult every time he's getting the ball. But yeah, that's what we're playing there. So yeah, just to recap there, the overline in terms of the total score, and then I like Petrarca at his line, and I'd just be wary of Anderson.
Love it. Love it. Anderson's the one to watch for sure there for me. Hawthorn versus North Melbourne. Now, Wally, this comes to a shock to me because I was unaware that they allowed bongs on the trading floor. Because have a look at the line. 32.5. Clearly, the boys upstairs have just decided, let's get the glassware out. And before we write this one up, because there is no way on earth you can watch the way that North Melbourne are playing and the sort of fight and spirit that they've somehow managed to get into their team after so long. Now, admittedly, there has been false dawns before for North Melbourne.
You love that false dawn.
So I am worried for their fans that they could really come crashing back to earth here. But I'll take that 32.5. Hawthorn $1.14. Don't want a bar of it. North Melbourne $5.80. You know what? I might even have a nibble at that.
Yeah.
The worry is it's in Tasmania.
Yeah, that's right. So it's in Tassie and it's not at Bellerive or the possible future stadium for the possible future Tasmanian team
No
that
chance.
may or may not have a roof.
No chance.
Just watch the Hawthorn Adelaide replay and you see if they need. Unless they want to play every game at 1:20 on a Saturday or a Sunday, they need a roof.
Someone check the criminal background of that mascot before they continue to do anything.
That's a different.
What was his name?
Nightmares. Rumman.
That's
Hectic. So this game I looked at and I go, okay, Hawthorn's price is poison. North Melbourne is too unpredictable, and Hawthorn's last 2 weeks make me think, okay, they took care of the doggies really well. They won a tough game down there against Adelaide. We're back down there. It's a Saturday twilight game. I go Hawthorn here, North Melbourne. The line's just too big. I don't see a way of playing in this game in terms of the result or the line. If you're going to play the line, it's probably North, but to be honest, this is something that Harrow will look at in full deep ratings. I haven't gone to that level on this game. However, what I will say is this.
Why would Harrow see a big nuffy?
No, it's more Harrow would be able to go in. Harrows would have his own.
I feel like I'm a current girlfriend and you're talking about your ex-wife. And you're going, oh, well, she would always, rub my back, when I was upset.
We do hope he makes it back from Bali at some point. No, but the whole thing is that he would have his ratings down for this game a lot more detailed.
I'm sure he's fantastic. I'm sure he's unbelievable.
And you would see the line. Well, you're a lot smarter than me on this stuff. My point is, though, I look at this and it just feels like danger at both ends, so I'm happy to leave it.
Chicken Musserman, we'll call him.
Yeah, they're dangerous both ends. All right, so the contest for me is very interesting because of the 4:15 start time. It will be fine. The conditions are fine in Tassie. It is often great weather down there. However, what's going to happen is halfway through this game, that moisture is going to start setting in, like we saw in the Hawthorn Adelaide game when it was fine leading into the game, and we could be in trouble. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to play the second half unders line.
Love that.
79.5 points you should be able to get for the score to be under the second half. So the line is around that 80-point mark, which means you're looking at 100. It'll be around 150, 155 because they usually go a little bit bigger in the second half for the game. So that for me is the bet based purely on conditions and how I see this game playing. The other thing...
Here I was thinking that you run marathons now, you don't go to the pub as much, you're buying a family home, but now you're betting on second half unders. You're
I've still
back.
got the mug
You're a
in me.
sicko, you're back.
Based on weather as well.
Based on weather as well.
What is it? Precipitation.
I think so.
I am at this point, I am Mike Larkin on Chelsea. Brandon, do you know I met Mike Larkin in Vegas?
Oh, you did?
And one of the greatest blokes.
Tell you what this screams of, one of those conversations where Larkin's like, fuck, I just got a holiday. Now I've got this guy yapping in my ear.
He did. I go, mate, what's going to... He said to me when I asked him about what the weather was going to be like tomorrow, he said, fuck off, mate, I'm on holidays. But then he was lovely. We had a good chat and met him in his other life. Fantastic guy. Anyway, the other area here is that North give the second most disposals in the comp to small to medium forwards and the third most goals to small medium forwards.
Love that.
So that sets up perfectly for Hawthorn. That's the other reason I was looking at this. It's hard to be with North when your biggest weakness in your back half is Hawthorn's biggest strength. And we know Hawthorn's defense stands up. And it's not like Larky has been firing. And we have the players to deal with the Zerha, to deal with the Curtis. Anyway, because they give a lot to that, the ones I'm looking at are the Wiz and Ginnivan and probably Connor McDonald's the other one. So I look at those three. Dylan Moore has been spending more time going through the midfield. So I look at those three for your 1 or 2 goals and your 10 to 15 disposals. So you check closer to game time. That's where I'd be building my SGM out of. I would simply be building an SGM out of the Wizard, Ginnivan, Connor McDonald, goals, and 10 and 15 disposal lines.
Before we press on, as a rabid Hawks fan,
That's fair.
where do you rate the season at the moment? Are you still under the guise that this is, I'm happy this is a great apprenticeship year and next year we really make a push for it? Or do you sort of thinking, I think we could have just done a little bit more and we've dropped off a touch?
We're ahead of schedule overall. You want to see that, but I feel like they've spoken about what they lost and they've gotten back, and you think they've gotten that fun back and the way they play back the last 2 weeks. It is hard to not get a little bit excited and a little bit hopeful when you are essentially percentage outside the top 4. You have North Melbourne this week, which is very winnable. And then you have the possibility of Will Day and Mitch Lewis coming into that side ahead of finals, and James Sicily ideally coming back fully fit. Now, a fully fit Sicily is very different to what we've seen in the first half of the year. If you add those 3 players to the team we've seen in the last 2 weeks, it's pretty hard not to go, we can't tilt. The problem I have is this. The best team in the competition is Collingwood. The most experienced team in the competition is Collingwood. The best leaders are probably at Collingwood. And then you've got another team that's not playing good footy and is still top 4 in Brisbane that have an incredible team behind them. So I go, are the bright lights going to be too big deep in September? Yeah. Maybe they're not, but is grand final day just that little bit too far? Do we need another year? Do we need another season? Well, at the end of the day, if you'd have told me we were even having this discussion a year and a half ago, I'd be like, you're crazy, get out of here. So I'm very comfortable with where they're at. I'm also if I don't bury, I wouldn't be betting on them at this stage to win the flag. I don't think there's any point this season.
No, I think a win for you guys is a couple of games of finals experience into the young guys and absolute success.
A prelim would be a great result.
Yeah, they come back hungry. That's a great result.
Anything above that would be cream, and then we go on next year. And what if you just as a side note, who do you have? I've clearly said Collingwood. I have. Who do you have? Do you have Collingwood on?
I think Collingwood are the clear and away favourite right now, but I do think that being an older list, there is going to come a point where as you get later on in the season, those soft tissue injuries, I think they're at risk of that.
Yeah.
A Pendlebury, side bottom, they could have some really good guys go down. Now, admittedly, they've still got a young core in the Dacos brothers, but I worry about that. The funny one is the numbers say Adelaide are a real strong chance. The champion data numbers, the numbers that link towards a premiership chance. So if I was betting, I think everyone else is a little too short to take a risk on, but Adelaide are right out there.
Yeah, the massive price.
And I just wouldn't mind that. So that's from a betting perspective, that's what I take. What about we go on to Collingwood versus West Coast at Marvel, the greatest stadium on earth. Collingwood $1.03, West Coast. Very rarely, I think 3 times this year, a team's gotten out to double figure odds, and we get it again here in West Coast at $12.50. The line is 60.5.
Yeah, look, it's
tough one.
10-goal line, so there's no spoil on the price there. You're going to back them to win. You can't back West Coast. There's 2 areas I really like in this game, though. And look, to be honest,
why is this at Marvel?
Well, I think that you have to play a certain amount of games at Marvel. I think it might be 2.
Well scheduled.
Yeah, a year, however it works. Collingwood get a fair bit of time at the G, so... Honestly, fine them going there. It'll be under the lid. They'll be fine. I could see them putting them away, but Collingwood don't seem to just absolutely wreck sides. So I can see them winning by 10 or 12 goals, but you're just covering the line. Do I want to be taking minus 71.5 point line for $2.50? No, I don't. So I'm happy to leave that all alone. 2 areas I like here are Darcy Cameron and Nick Dacos. So West Coast give up plenty to rucks. All right, they're like Port Adelaide in that. So I really like Cameron here. But the way I'll be playing Cameron, because of the amount of dominance he has in the actual ruck contest, but also he does win a decent amount of ball, but he also goes up forward and kicks goals. Play his fantasy line. You'll be able to find his fantasy line. Multiple bookmakers have him. Play the fantasy line. Darcy Cameron, whatever that line is, I'd be going over on that because he will go big. By the way, 2 things about Darcy Cameron. One, I've never been more wrong on a ruckman than him.
Yeah.
I genuinely didn't rate him until...
I don't think anyone who said they did was probably a Collingwood supporter or lying.
And so I'm happy to put my hand up on that, and absolutely a bona fide star of the comp. And secondly, one of the nicest blokes I've met.
You know what I've found this year doing more with the individual players? You're hard pressed to find a dickhead.
You are.
Within the league. I know a lot of people always say, footy guys, dickhead. Mate.
No.
These guys come into the studio, they're shaking hands with the cameraman. There's someone, I'll do this, whatever.
Absolutely.
Just, I think there's not too many, like you look back at the Rat Pack days, that sort of stuff. Like, I think guys are so wary of their brand now and wary that you can't just be a dick.
No.
You just can't be a dick.
No, that's 100% right.
You can in the media. I very much enjoy it.
Exactly. But in the back in the 80s, very different. I want to talk to my friends, and that's it. Don't come up to me, don't ask me. And then you might
kind of like Mike Larkin in Vegas. Like they give you that.
Sorry, Mike.
Strong on you.
2 shout-outs for Mike Larkin. What a day.
And it's raining. A day of terrible weather. Thanks, Mike. Richmond versus Adelaide.
Oh, before we get to that, sorry, I'll just throw you the Dacos numbers.
Do it. Fuck me.
No, it's all right. No dramas. So Dacos, big game here. Under the lid. They don't have anyone that can go to him. That's fine if they want to try and send someone to him. They will not be able to go with him. All right. If you think about it, he's had 30 odd against Windhager, who is a bona fide tagger and one of the best in the comp. West Coast can't go with him here. So he's gone 32, 30, and 36 in his last 3 games against them. So I'll be taking him in his line, which will be low 30s. I'll be taking the 35 for the $3.30, and I'll be taking the 40 as well. He's had 38 or 39 a couple of times this year. I'm doing that, so that'll be my lines. I'll be playing him that. So I'll be taking Darcy Cameron fantasy line into the Dacos line for his disposal. Plus, I'll be laddering up Dacos for 35 and 40 disposals.
I was about to say, I reckon you hit the 40 plus there as well, because he's that sort of guy who's like, you know what? I'm sick of getting, I've been copping these tags. I am just going to explode. And I'm going to do it against this cellar-dwelling team who's got no one that can go. He'll get 35 and they'll put him forward. He'll kick 2 or 3 as well. So I reckon that's going to be the one there. And McRae seems like the sort of guy that'll be like, let's reward him. Let's absolutely let him off the leash here as well. Richmond versus Adelaide, 3:20 on Sunday. Always the best. The hangover's gone. A little bit of Chinese food maybe coming out of the fridge to be reheated. It is the perfect time for footy. Or maybe you're still not even home on a Sunday. We've certainly all been there. Certainly I have.
You have.
Probably more so me. But Richmond at $6.70, Adelaide $1.11 here. The line is 37.5. Jeez.
Yeah, big line, but understandable. It is at the G, though. Great shout on leftover Chinese food in the fridge.
It's fantastic. It's one of the best reheatable foods as well. Pizza, I don't know, sometimes pizza, good. But
throw pizza in the air fryer the next day.
Yeah.
Elite. That's good. Anyway, this is not that sort of podcast. It could be. It could be. All right. Tigers give up plenty to backs. We know that. Adelaide love to share it around. It's no rain forecast at this stage, so it should be clean usage in that back half. So you're looking at Laird, you're looking at Hinge, and you're looking at Worrell. I'd be looking at those 3 at their disposal lines and playing around those. I don't see there's any way in which they get heavily restricted unless something goes wrong. So I see those 3 as an area to get plenty of disposal. The other one for me is Richmond McIntosh hasn't been doing that job. They're not really tagging at the moment. So I see what that Bont did last week and I go, who's the one to do that this week? He's having a great year. It's Dawson. So I'll be looking at Dawson to cover his line as well based on what we've been seeing from them. Look, if they decide to go and send a tag to him, I can live with that. I'm taking the right form lines here, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. The Crows, however, are very, very stingy when it comes to disposals, so I'm not looking at any Tigers for disposals, not even on smaller lines. I'm leaving them alone. This is purely, for me, an Adelaide disposal game. So just again, I'm going to go Laird, Hinge, Worrell, and look at them for disposals, and I'm going to take Dawson's line, and I might even do the ladder on him as well.
What's the rules on the sub now? I can't remember whether is it at any point of the game subbed out void or it's only first half injuries?
So there's a whole heap of different books are doing different things. So the big boys, Sportsbet and Tab will refund if there is an injury prior to half time. Or not even injury, if it's subbed out, doesn't matter what the reason is. If you want to sub your player tactically at quarter time, go for it. If you're subbed out, they do it. If you're named the sub before the bounce, it's then void as well. So if you're named the sub before the bounce and your bet's on, that's void. Now, how a same-game multi will work is they can't readjust the odds, so usually the whole bet will get refunded. I believe that there's some bookmakers, and it might be the Entain Group. I don't want to. Yeah. You'd have to check with them on this.
What a Juicy Bet?
I think what?
Juicy Bet.
No, I'm not sure they do. Who is that?
Yeah. So, well, I'm using a VPN and betting on Boyle Bet over in Ireland, so it's a little bit difficult to get money back.
So I believe they do. If the rest of your multi wins, they might refund you. But then there is others that I don't know outside of that, and I'm not 100% sure. I would just check with your book before you place your bets, but I know that Tab and Sportsbet definitely do it. Sportsbet 100% do. And I saw online that Tab did it last week. So, yeah, outside of that, I don't know, mate. But it should just, but I just reckon, like, it's hard enough. Like, just give us that. If they get subbed out, just give us it.
Yeah,
Come on.
Just pay the bet out.
Just pay it out. Even if we lose,
Darcy
just pay
kicks
us
3,
out.
say, bring back the... Someone brought it up. I saw it came up
If
on
he kicks
social
3, we'll
media.
pay you 6.
It came up on social media the other day. Someone had when Nathan Brown used to spin the wheel and they just pay out
I
whatever
remember that.
team.
Oh, my God.
Whatever happened to the glory days?
So we did that. I remember spinning that with Brownie in a velvet jacket one time, and for the third or fourth week, something, it was Hawthorn.
Yeah.
And Hawthorn were like, that was like 2015,
Yeah,
16. Hawthorn were flying.
Yeah.
So it was like, they were just, I think that
$1.20 and that sort of,
but also how much you're holding. I think the wheel got put away courtesy of us. Anyway, what's
Freo
our
and St Kilda round
course.
the round of footy out Sunday 5:10 p.m. Another good one. I do enjoy the Optus Stadium ones to finish out your weekend. Fremantle rolling at the moment $1.27. Saints unpredictable, cowardly at times. $3.82. The line 22.5. I'm personally quite comfortable with Freo covering that.
Yeah, look, you look at that and you go, I agree. Like, the way I look at this, Freo and St Kilda played less than 2 months ago in Melbourne. St Kilda gave them a bit of a touch-up. If you remember, Freo were just pathetic. Since then, both teams have played 6 games. Freo have gone 5-1. The only one they've lost was to Collingwood in a close one. The Saints have gone 1-5, only beating Melbourne, who have been hot and cold. So they've had 2 completely different parts.
And when did they beat Melbourne? Melbourne was the most recent.
It was about 3 weeks ago. So
it was when Melbourne were back on the skid.
Yeah,
it wasn't in that.
Yeah, exactly.
Stretch.
And you have a look at this and you go, yes, the Saints were good at times against Collingwood, and I think a lot of that is coaching. And Ross was very good, and they put this plan in place, and they were good and they were competitive. But the bottom line is they didn't get the chockies there. So I look at that and I go, for me, is this also a little bit of a revenge game? And no, I'm not talking, they think it was a grand final to them. But we spoke about this, Harros and I spoke about this last week. North Melbourne had been competitive pretty much all year, apart from the Carlton game when they got smashed on Good Friday. Alistair Clarkson then made a point of mentioning that game ahead of this week. They turn up and they played the best brand of footy for that first 3 quarters they played all year. Is there a level where Freo go, these guys embarrassed us 6 weeks ago when everyone was saying we can make the 8 and win the flag? We're now flying. We're 5-1. We need to win this game. They're coming over. They don't have the team we have. We're going to go bang. So I feel like that this, for me, is a game that Freo can roll in on and absolutely dominate. So I really do like their line there. And I might even look at some higher lines as well, depending on the price we're getting. The Windhager factor tells me I'm probably not playing in the midfield space for Freo's mids. St Kilda's are a bit all over the place. And Marshall v. Jackson, keep me away from that. Both absolute stars. Do not want any of the ruckman duo as well. And then I look at the forwards, and there is a lot of inconsistencies in both forward lines.
The Freo forward line is the most frustrating forward line to back.
It 100% is. The other thing is that when it's in the other now with Butler popping up a little bit more, Higgins is kicking as many, and I look and I go, who are we targeting in terms of the tools? Is memory, but not memory. Memory. He is obviously at Collingwood now, and playing well. No, I was going to say Owen's reliable up in that forward line. Do you know what I mean? So there is a little bit of that inconsistency for me in both forward lines. So I go, okay, well, let's keep this simple. Freo line, it's a good bet. I'm happy to have it. And that's, mate, that's where I'll be playing.
You don't need to overcomplicate it sometimes. That's what I find. And I tell you what, the era of the same game multi gets you, because I'm like, you know what, I've got my best bet. North to cover the line. But Zerha's probably going to kick 2 if they do that.
Well, there you go.
You just get roped in, and it does make the game a much more fun watch.
And you add.
Yeah, sometimes you've just got to be smart with it and just stick your one out. Josh Jenkins is one of the best at that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just always just bang. He puts his bets on for the week, and he's got his best bets, and he always comes out on top. So he does a great job. Wally, fantastic.
We got through.
Who needs Harrow? You were saying, I remember before the mics turned off, you said that never really needed him in the first place, and you were the star of the show. Now, after sitting here, I believe you.
I don't know if I need you. Or just maybe it's me.
It's
Let's give me a hologram.
Mate, are we able to hold up cue cards? just next game, cue card.
No, thank you very much, Phil. It's been absolutely great. Oh, and I should say before I go, we always give our best bet of the round. And I did check in. This has been Harros approved. We are firmly on the Port Adelaide line to cover against Carlton. We're very confident in that one.
I'm going to, because I don't abide by the rules of this
Love
podcast. I'm a guest. I'm going Sam Darcy 3+ at $1.70 against the Swans.
Big tick,
Absolutely love that. I think he'll be able to, the way that we defend, he's going to be, the way that you have to, it seems like everyone's saying you got to be physical with him now. That's been in the media all week. The umpires aren't stupid. They watch the media. I think with that sort of emphasis being the only way to defeat Darcy is to be super physical, I reckon he's going to draw himself into a few free kicks there as well as they try to do that, because it's in the consciousness. And I'm going North Melbourne to cover the line against the Hawks, because North Kanga, roo, they're on the way back.
And
we'll love them until they start beating our teams, and then we'll fucking hate them again.
What a way to finish.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website gamblinghelponline.org.au.